Hello, Tom McGuire. I want to talk to you today about a book called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. Now, some of you have, to be fair, saying to me lately that I'm not doing very many personal development book reviews anymore, and that's fine. I do tend to go off piste a little bit sometimes. As I said before, this channel is mainly about personal development. It's about me reading and listening to as many books as possible, and then kind of going over them in a bit of a review format like today, so that mainly I can kind of concrete the stuff that I've read and taken in my own mind, but also share tips and advice with you that I found useful in terms of my own personal development. I started taking my own personal development quite seriously a few years ago. I've also said before to those of you who know this channel that I like to leave these book reviews to my kids so that when they're older they can look back and there'll be some evidence that I did actually exist after all, and that I did enjoy certain books, I got certain things from certain books, I had certain tastes, etc, etc. But it's also, it's about helping them learn and decide what they want as well, but it's also about me helping myself to learn and develop. And I look back at the sort of books that I enjoyed 3 or 4 years ago when I started doing this, and you do change over time. And I think this book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, is kind of a bit more of a traditional personal development book. I don't mean that in an insulting way, because I know personal development is sometimes looked down on. I don't think that at all. I think this book is really quite philosophical. It's really, really interesting. It's really well written, which is really nice. Now, Rick Rubin is someone who's actually really, really famous. He has, and I'm going to have to read this bit because I can't remember off the top of my head. I will completely flump the review if I tried to do that. But he basically helped popularize hip hop. He produced records for acts such as Beastie Boys, Ghetto Boys, Run DMC, Public Enemy, LL Cool J. He's also produced hit records for a number of other sort of genres as well. He's done heavy metal, so Metallica, who are one of my favourite bands of all time, Slayer, fantastic. He's done Red Hot Chili Peppers, The Strokes, Weezer, Aerosmith. He's done Linkin Park, Rage Against the Machine, all sorts of like fantastic bands. And I didn't actually realise this. It shows how ignorant I am. He's also done country, so he's done like Johnny Cash, people like that as well. Also, Johnny Cash, I think is absolutely fantastic as well. I've been listening to him just recently, actually. The Man Comes Around and Her, just absolutely fantastic song. But anyway, we haven't even got to the book yet. So The Creative Act 2023. It's quite kind of meditative. It's philosophical. I did listen to a couple of other reviews on this book. I don't normally do that. I usually try to come at it quite fresh, but it's interesting to hear that a lot of people are saying that it isn't really a kind of guide to becoming more creative. There's no kind of step-by-step kind of instruction manual here, but I see that as a good thing. Who the hell wants a step-by-step instruction manual? You can't, there's no such thing as giving someone a step-by-step instruction manual to becoming successful or creative or hardworking. You have to read and listen to lots of different successful people, and you have to try and then pull out the gist of that and try and make it work for yourself. And that's pretty much what this book is like. It might be accused of being a little bit wishy-washy in places. He might contradict himself sometimes in places, possibly. But he's obviously a very successful, very creative person who is sharing his opinion on that. And the way he does it is really kind of eloquent and interesting. And he actually, in the audio version, he reads it as well. He narrates, which is really good. He's got a fantastic voice for that. So anyone, I suppose, who has read a lot of personal development or listened to a lot of personal development, self-help type books will probably recognize a lot of stuff in here and kind of think, okay, heard it before. But I've said before that it doesn't really matter too much if you find that with a book, because often it's really good just to go over things again and kind of sort of establish them in your mind. And to hear it from someone else's perspective as well, I think is interesting. So don't write something off just because you've kind of heard that concept before. Listen to what the person's saying from their own perspective as well, because I think that's really important. He talks about the importance of going with your instinct. He talks about the importance of not being influenced too much by the world around us, marketing and capitalism and all that sort of stuff. So in that respect, it might be a little bit kind of hippie, new age sort of thing, potentially. But I think it makes a lot of sense. He's talking about being authentic and staying true to yourself. And he's talking again, it's like a lot of these books that talk about creativity. So Stephen King's On Writing, which I absolutely love. There are some others as well. The War of Art, which is, what's his name? He's one of my favourites. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I'll edit it in afterwards, but The War of Art as well. And it's about just putting the work in and doing the work. And and kind of just reserving judgment on yourself and just keeping going and allowing yourself to go down a certain path if needs be. So you might write something, but you don't have to be precious about it. You can allow it to evolve and develop and change. And that's what the best kind of creative thinkers and writers and songwriters and things that people do. They keep going and they stay disciplined and they put in the hard work. They put that hard work hack in a way, and they allow things to develop and change. So yeah, I highly recommend this one. I'm going to buy. I haven't actually bought the hardback copy yet, but I am going to. It's one I'm going to put on my shelf. I've got a collection of books that is ever increasing and that I love, and so I will be putting that on my shelf very soon. But I for now have the audio version, which I'm going to listen to. It's really good for listening to or picking up in chunks. So a chapter here, a chapter there, a few minutes is fantastic. So highly recommend this one. The other book I would sort of liken it to that I've read recently and reviewed recently is Getting Better by Michael Rosen. In some ways it's a completely different book and they're completely different people, but they're just two very creative people. So Rick Rubin is American and brash and like ultra successful, I suppose, in a kind of, well, this might sound offensive to him, but in a capitalist kind of world, he's hugely successful in a capitalist sort of way. Michael Rosen, less so. He's more British, BBC children's story book writer. He co-wrote or he co-put together Bear Hunt. Let's All Go on a Bear Hunt, that one, and others. And he's absolutely fantastic. He's a bit of a face of kind of like, you know, children's TV, I suppose, and children's books. So they're very, very different, but they're both really creative geniuses as far as I'm concerned, and that's kind of why I'm likening these two books a little bit together. They both feel very honest and very authentic. So thank you very much. I will be doing another review very soon. Thank you. Speak soon. Goodbye.